conference having to do with LIHEAP. My name is Senate President Beth Edmonds, and I want to start by saying the obvious, which is that in Maine, we take care of each other. Obviously, the cost of oil is much higher than last year, and there are many of us who are having trouble making ends meet. Community action plan agencies need the funds to help those who need the most. And earlier this week, Jessica Tyson of Midcoast Maine Community Action said on Channel 6 News, "It's the most difficult years I've ever seen, and I've been at this agency for 15 years. It's really a convergence of a lot of different factors. The colder winter coming earlier, the fuel prices are higher, and food prices are higher because of gasoline prices. We all know personally there are thousands of people helping their neighbors in communities across Maine, and we must support those community organizations. We have a strong tradition of caring for each other, and it's part of our democratic, small and big D, responsibility. But that isn't enough. The federal government has helped those in need with LIHEAP in the past, but the funding for LIHEAP is doubtful as the federal budget is tied up in Congress while the President threatens to veto any alternative to his plan. We cannot and will not afford to let Maine people be left out in the cold. Speaker Cummings is now going to outline the stark reality of the problem facing Maine people if that LIHEAP money is not approved in the budget. Mr. Speaker?
Thank you, President Edmonds, and thank you for the House and the Senate caucus for being here with us today to stand on behalf of Maine people. Let me tell you, at the core, this issue is about human beings and about an oncoming winter that threatens people in this state. We live in this state as one Maine and one family, and our support for each other means something to us. And we're asking our representatives in Washington, and we're asking the President to show that he means something, that we mean something to him. This boils down in great amount to just numbers, and let me just go through what those numbers are. President Bush unveiled his budget for fiscal year 08, a request that included $1.8 billion for LIHEAP, down from $2.2 billion appropriated last year. That's an 18% cut, while heating oil went up 25%. That together puts Mainers in danger of being able to survive financially this winter, and it could put Mainers in danger of surviving altogether. That, from our perspective, is unacceptable. Based on these figures, the Office of Fiscal and Program Review has estimated that the state of Maine will see its share of federal heating assistance drop from $47 million last year to a projected $39.6 million this year if the President gets his way. For us in Maine, we're asking the President to consider what that means for Maine people, and it could mean tragedy. Earlier this month, President Bush vetoed an appropriations bill that contained $2.4 billion for LIHEAP, and today a continuing resolution will expire for funding federal programs like LIHEAP if Congress does not act and the President does not entertain a compromise. On the one hand, the President has said that programs like LIHEAP are not a priority, and on the other, he has asked for additional $200 billion for the war in Iraq next year. We are already well into this heating season, and Maine communities need to know that funding will be available from the federal government for heating assistance. The Maine Housing Authority estimates that about 37,000 Mainers have already applied for household aid in the form of fuel this year, and that could rise to around 50,000 before this heating season is over. In the face of increasing costs and increasing demands, something must be done. Today, we are calling on the President and Congress to increase funding for LIHEAP and to help the people of Maine who desperately need it. If they do not act by the time they adjourn for Christmas, the state of Maine will have to address this federal failure and keep people warm here in Maine. It appears the President is content to freeze LIHEAP funding at last year's levels, despite the fact that heating costs for people in Maine will be almost 25 to 30% higher this year than it was last year. And finally, our congressional delegation is working hard on our behalf, but our President needs to be reminded that if LIHEAP funding is flat, it won't be just budget lines that may be frozen this winter. Thank you.
Now now like to introduce Suzanne McCormick of PROP, who will speak to us about her experiences. That's you, Harry.
Good morning. My name is Suzanne McCormick, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the People's Regional Opportunity Program in Portland, which is Cumberland County's Community Action Agency. And I'm here representing the 10 community action agencies throughout the state of Maine. We work in partnership with the Maine State Housing Authority to deliver the LIHEAP benefit. And our staff are really the frontline workers who on a daily basis are interacting and trying to support families as they struggle with economic hardship and trying to heat their homes. We are so grateful to the legislature for your support. LIHEAP funding is critical, and although we're trying to raise additional funds through the Keep Maine Warm Fund, the federal government is really what we need to help support families further. As of yesterday, down in the Portland office, we had taken 4,200 LIHEAP applications. That compares to 2,300 last year at this time. In the Augusta office, they had taken 7,400 applications, which is a 1,500 increase over last year. So in addition to a lower benefit, more people are actually requesting the benefit. So the need really is great. As Speaker Cummings said, this is really about people, and today we are so fortunate to have four of our Maine neighboring families who have benefited or not benefited from the LIHEAP program, who are available to speak with you. We have April from Oakland, Chelsea from Clinton, Jim and Nancy from Lincoln County, and Cindy Harrington from Augusta, who you'll hear from in a moment. But all of those families will be available after to talk with legislators and the press to share their stories with you. And each of their stories is unique in its own way, and yet it represents thousands of other stories throughout the state of Maine. One of the families said to me, if every family in the state could simply take the 24-hour heating challenge, turn off your heat in your home for 24 hours and see what that's like. See what it's like not to be able to take a shower. See what it's like to have your children say they're cold. See what it's like to try to heat your kitchen with just your stove. I think it's something interesting and something we should all think about. So thank you again to the legislature, and now it's my pleasure to introduce one of our Maine neighbors who has benefited or not from LIHEAP to share her story with you. Cindy Harrington.
Thank you to the legislature for hearing us today. I am a recipient of the HEAP program in Augusta. It was very hard for me to ask for assistance. I've been totally independent all my life, and having to ask for HEAP was really hard. The program itself is great if you're able to go through it. A lot of people have a lot of dignity, and they don't want to have to ask, and they feel lower in sort of like the food chain to have to ask for help. These people who come in, they don't know where to start. They come in, they know they're cold, they know they're out of oil, they know they're going to be out of oil. And the Augusta office tries their best to help, but not everybody qualifies. There could be $100 over limit. And that's just $100 that they can't come up with medical bills or medical expenses to deduct from their income. They could have an outhouse instead of an indwelling bathroom. That does not qualify them, because for some reason they have to have that in their program, in their house. These people that I know personally that have not qualified for this is in danger of their house and their being, like Suzanne said, of being cold, of having to heat their house with their stove. These other people that I know of that have received the heating assistance, their tanks of oil, they get 120 gallons maybe. December's almost over. It's been a cold December, and that oil's almost out. So they don't know what to do next. They don't know if they can reapply, if they can get a second chance at it, where there's so many other people that have not yet been able to be qualified. I am sitting here, on behalf of the Augusta office and all Maine people, the legislature, and everybody else needs to know that there are people out there that need Maine's help, that we need to get together and help everybody out so they can stay warm this season. Thank you.
Now I'd like to introduce Congressman Allen's aide, Jim Pino.
Thank you very much, all who attended today. I would like to read a letter on behalf of Congressman Allen. Dear friends, I am sorry that I could not join you in person today in calling for immediate, adequate funding for the LIHEAP program. I commend the Maine legislative leaders, community camp agency representatives, and LIHEAP customers for holding this event. Winter has not even officially begun in Maine, and we are already chilled to the bone. Faced with this harsh winter and out-of-control heating prices, proud, hard-working Mainers are applying in record numbers to LIHEAP. Many of them have never sought help before, and it pains them to deeply ask. Here are a few of the heartbreaking stories that I have heard. A single father of 2 young children in Wyndham. He is working hard, full-time, but cannot make ends meet. He said he wouldn't ask for the help if it was just for him, but he cannot bear to see his children suffer. An elderly woman in Casco who can no longer survive on her low fixed income. This year she needs a new expensive medication and major car repairs so she can go to church and volunteer in town. You could hear in her voice how much it hurt just to ask for this assistance. These people are doing everything in their power to take care of themselves and their families, but it has become impossible. How can we turn our backs on them? Yet that is exactly what this administration has done. This year, the President's budget saw less money for LIHEAP than last year. This, despite the fact that more people than ever are eligible for this assistance, and as prices have risen, the purchasing power of the benefit has fallen dramatically. The House and Senate agreed to increase LIHEAP funding significantly, but the President vetoed the bill. He said the measure had an irresponsible and excessive level of spending in it. What is irresponsible and immoral is to leave these good Mainers out in the cold. I will continue my fight for full funding for LIHEAP, release of the remainder's contingency funds for this year, and release of the contingency funds from previous years. We also need stronger law enforcement against price gouging. Keeping Mainers safe and warm must be our highest priority. Thank you.
If there are questions, we'd be happy to answer them, and I believe the folks who are recipients are available to answer questions as well. Yes?
Question maybe for the speaker, but what will the state's response be if the LIHEAP money is not forthcoming?
I think that if the money's not forthcoming, I don't think that our caucuses, certainly on either side of the two bodies, would be willing to just stand back and do nothing. So it will be a matter of trying to find a political coalition to find the resources to make sure that Mainers are not endangered and that they are safe in their own homes.
At the time that you're criticizing the administration for less money when food prices are higher, the state has also, in the past, kicked in at least $5 million a couple of years ago, none so far this year. And at a time when you're trying to help truck drivers, there's a lot of attention on diesel prices for truck drivers, but not the same for the same people that are in the room today.
I'd like to answer that. I think we are prepared to take that step if necessary. I think our first step has been to say to the federal government, you need to step up. And if the federal government doesn't step up, then I think we will do as we have done in the past and try to figure out how to solve this problem ourselves.
That includes some kind of tax relief, and what are you going to do? I don't know what funding.
A LIHEAP funding.
LIHEAP, I'm not sure.
LIHEAP funding. Putting money into LIHEAP so people have to do it. Yes. That's my.
Have those funds been identified already, or are you going to have to sit down and figure that out? We have enough time to do that.
I think we do.
We do have time to do that. I think, but the point is that needs to be made right now is the federal government has it in its power to solve this problem as they should. And if they don't, then we'll have to do what we can figure out to do in a very tough budget cycle to take care of the people who we care about and need to be taken care of.
I think that this brings up, and I think that the President's point is a very important one. For the number of years now, the state of Maine has had to step up and create a social service net that the federal government has consistently stepped away from. So our request now is to require, to ask for the federal government to step forward and take their responsibility to take care of Maine people. We are already in a situation where we have tough choices ahead of us. We're going to balance our budget, unlike the federal government. We will balance our budget, but there's pain in doing so. We're asking the federal government to live up to their responsibilities, so there's a little less pain.
Thank you.